Texans and the Dolphins had a combined practice today. I was there. It was a very good practice. And the headline grabbing moment was Jalen Pitre with a walk-off pick six at the end. I'll let Jimmy Ward set up the video for you.
Oh, man. The crazy thing is he always talks about that. 2x2, open, spread, slant, still a slant by one. And he went and got it. Jalen is a great player. Like, Jalen can hit, he can cover. Then he talks. See, y'all don't hear Jalen out there talking, but Jalen talks a lot too. But he can back it up too.
I don't know what Jimmy is talking about. We hear all of it because he's very loud. Jalen Pitre is, and he does talk a lot, which belies his kind of almost nerdy demeanor in press conferences. So it's nice. There's a little bit of a dual nature to Jalen Pitre, kind of like D'Amico Ryans was back in the day. Three things about that video you just saw. One was the tendencies, 2x2 receiver set with a slant by the one. That's the outside wide receiver. And Jalen Pitre as a second-year player, already understanding a lot of what to expect from offenses or whatever scouting report they have on these guys. So that's nice to see. Two, yeah, he can hit. Yeah, he talks a lot. It felt like he might have missed an opportunity for a huge hit in the Patriots game. I'm guessing that's going to gnaw at Jalen Pitre all week, and we'll probably see a pretty big hit out of him on Saturday night. What was the third thing? Oh yeah, the third thing was after the walk-off, because that was during a 2-minute drill. Jalen and a bunch of guys walked through that back gate there, like towards the practice bubble, as if they were going to exit the field completely. It was good. It was funny. It was really good. I was a little bit nervous on their behalf that they were actually going to walk all the way off, because then D'Amico would have had to have been the adult there, and it would have been he would have had him in the killjoy. So it was a fun moment right there. And only one fight today to speak of. Fight, whatever, scrum. They're not fights anymore. Back in my day. Well, actually, I can tell you a story, but we're trying to compress this. I'll tell it another time. So the other big story heading into today was the fact that D'Amico and Mike McDaniel had spent time together, both in Houston and then also as coaches together in San Francisco. So what was the interaction like between D'Amico and Mike McDaniel? One more from Jimmy Ward because he's awesome.
What did you see with their interactions while they were with D'Amico?
D'Amico and laid back. A whole bunch of arm crossing, arm folding, and just a little giggle here and there. That's about it. Mike was cool, laid back. Used to wear these huge shoes. I think he's like a size 12 or something. He's like 5'7" or something. So, but he was always cool, man. Just laid back, and that's how he is now.
That sounds about right. And those two were arms crossed, laughing. They got together beforehand to figure out certain situations, what to run against each other to try to see what they've got in their guys. So that was really good work. I think the offense had a pretty good day, all things considered. Dalton Schultz was targeted heavily early on, as was Robert Woods. Robert Woods is really starting to look like that veteran player that he might end up having a pretty low yards per catch, but he's going to be exactly where CJ expects him to be because he's a veteran. I think that's going to help out a lot. Dalton Schultz early on really just eviscerated the Dolphins. The Dolphins, to their credit, adjusted to it. But the other big headline moment, just it wasn't a walk-off because it was red zone drill. Tank Dell. I and Sean Pendergast, my co-host at Sports Radio 610, had to get to practice a little bit late because of our day job. And we got to practice as the red zone drill was going. And by the time we'd been there like 7 minutes, Tank Dell had 3 touchdowns. So that was really good. The biggest probably point of contention between Miami reporters covering the team and those of us from Houston sports media there was on just how many times there would have been sacks of CJ Stroud. It's a very subjective matter in training camp because you're not allowed to tackle or even get close to quarterbacks. When Deshaun Watson was here, frankly, you could get away with saying like, well, no, it probably wouldn't have been a sack. He would have rolled out of that. CJ's not quite as mobile as Deshaun Watson. So he probably got sacked a few times today. There were other times where I think he credibly evaded pressure and made some really nice throws. So all in all, I think a pretty good day for CJ. And as for the genesis of those sacks, the offensive line, Laramie Tunsil did Laramie Tunsil things and looked just absolutely fine and like one of the very best left tackles in football. I thought that Juice Scruggs continues to show a lot of promise. George Fant, the backup to Tytus Howard, who's replacing Tytus Howard for now, he had some rough downs, had some rough snaps. Kenyon Green had at least one rough snap that I saw, but they're managing him. They moved that Michael Dieter in with him for a little bit to swap out reps with him. They're trying to take it easy on a guy that's coming off of an offseason knee surgery. I hate to say this, but it is what it is right now. But I have seen evidence of Kenyon Green starting to come along. I was somewhat pleased that he didn't have any truly dominating plays in the game against the Patriots, but I thought he had a pretty steady performance. So we'll see as that goes along. And I think it's going to be really good to have hopefully Laramie Tunsil next to him in this next game. Oh, one more thing about the quarterbacks. Cody Stutes noted that CJ Stroud probably got about 80% of the QB snaps today. Davis Mills had one interception. I didn't get to see that, so I don't know exactly what that was all about. But CJ Stroud's the starting quarterback. There hasn't been a formal pronouncement, but it would be a cataclysmic disaster at this point that I think would prevent CJ Stroud from starting in week 1 versus the Ravens. That's the way it looks right now. Oh, and one more thing that Sean Bajani noted about the quarterbacks, which was that CJ looked like he had a little bit more command and authority at the line of scrimmage. He checked out of a play into a run, according to Sean Bajani, who noted that. And I think this is something that is part of the evolution of where Bobby Slowick wants to take CJ Stroud over the course of these 3 preseason games. They're trying to get to the point where he can do all of these things automatically, and they seem to be pretty pleased that he's on pace. So I look forward to tomorrow's practice versus the Dolphins, coming out with another video on a Will Anderson update. Regardless, please like, subscribe, and my name is Seth Payne, by the way. I played 10 years in the NFL, 5 with the Houston Texans, and I now cover them on sports radio here in Houston. And I do this little YouTube here, so subscribe.